See up top. All that happened with ES 2015 is that this class syntax was introduced, but it's not changing how things work behind the scenes. It's just an easier way to work and define class-like structures. So if you are not familiar with either of those, object-oriented programming or prototype-based inheritance, then that probably makes zero sense. But all that we'll say is that it does help to know that technically this is not true object-oriented programming. That's not going to hinder us in any way. We just have to, it's good to know that. Let's just think about that. So next, why do we need to learn this? Well, as already mentioned, we're going to implement tons of data structures as classes. So anytime we build, we're going to learn how to build a tree or a graph or a simply linked list. We're going to define the class, define a pattern in JavaScript that we can then instantiate individual lists from. For example, spoiler, here's two classes we define for our simply linked list. So you can see class keyword, constructor, we'll go into all this detail, but here is the class for the simply linked list. It's kind of long. There's a lot of methods we added here. This is a blueprint though. This doesn't actually represent any data. There's no instance of a list. We still have to instantiate one. Here's another really short class called a node. And the singly linked list class utilizes the node class inside of it. So that's all I'll say about it for now. This is just a single example of many that we're going to see and implement on our own. So I think that I'll leave off here. Just know that classes are what we're going to use throughout the rest of the course. Coming up next, a bunch of data structures. In the next video, though, we're going to introduce the syntax for classes. So if you know it, you can skip it, get some review. But if you don't know it, I highly recommend that you just sit through the next couple videos. I know it's not on data structures just yet, but it's really important because we're going to use this. Okay. Alright, welcome back. Now we're going to actually take a look at how you declare a object that has a first name set to ml, meal, grade is 3. Notice year is nowhere to be found, the actual name year, because we just called it grade instead of email. Emil, I don't know, cats, and he's in year 3, sure. You can see what I get back is just a JavaScript object that has a first name set to Emil, meal, grade is 3, and last name is cats. So notice year is nowhere to be found, the actual name year, because we just called it grade instead. This is just a placeholder, just like any argument in a function. Okay, now if I save that to a variable, let's call it let's just call it person. I'm terrible at this. Let's go with the bill. Like this. I can now access, for example, first name. So nothing revolutionary at this point. It's just a nice way of organizing our code. But I just want to make that really clear that when we define a class, it doesn't do anything on its own. We have to actually instantiate using the new keyword instances of that class. So we will eventually have a class called, let's say, tree, for example, or singly linked list. Defining the class is just a pattern, but then we're still going to have to say new tree or new singly linked list, and then do something with that column method on it. So now if I run this, we have 2 students. By the way, if you're just skipping to this, I use Command Enter to run my snippets. You can also click here or wherever you're doing this, but I realized that might have looked like magic. I hit Command Enter. So now we have the first student, we have second student, and notice that grade is undefined in all of them. And also, if I wanted to, I could now define a grade or update a grade to be, let's see, for second student, grade is 4. Now if we look at second student, grade is set to 4. So you might be wondering what this keyword is referring to here. So often, the keyword this is a source of confusion pretty much always in JavaScript for many students, and it changes, its meaning changes depending on its context. But in this situation, when we're inside of a constructor or another instance method, we'll talk about instance methods in the next video. But when we're inside of a constructor, let's just say that for now. This refers to the individual instance of the class, so the individual student. So this refers to this student or this student, depending on which one we're talking about. So when we instantiate a new student, let's say let kitty equal new student, and kitty cat, not using grades, so we can pass one year. So I'm first grade or first year, and Blue is in second year. Now I'm going to run this code, and if we look at students now, so let's look at first student. Now, if I access one plate, I have nothing available to me. If I execute it, I wouldn't pass anything in. We'll still spend late 1 times. And if I look at first student parties now, should have earlier included. Was 0. Then we got party 0. It's a bit larger. I've now marked it, and let's do the same thing 1 time, and the rest 2 times. So now I play 3 times. We don't have any logic in there. We could add in a little conditional to check. If it's greater than 3, then we expel you. Why don't we do that really quickly? So we'll add 1 parties, and then we'll just add conditional. If this dot parties is greater than or equal to 3, return you are expelled. So if I rerun my code, instantiate, or let's go back to first student and do mark late first time, second time, now the third time, you are expelled. Every other time, every time. Okay, let's get it out first. The last thing we'll talk about is method is finding one that takes some argument. Let's also add in an array here called source. We'll start as empty because we're going to then we're going to create a method. The first one is basically what is called add store. Then we'll take every store. We'll take this dot and we'll call this dot source dot push. So this is add the store on second. Now you can access this directly. So this is source dot push, and then I'll return this dot source. So if I rerun my code, and I now add to push on computers and stop you from doing that, but it's more conventional to find a method that will do this to prevent really stopping anybody from manually changing any of these properties. But the conventional way of writing a class is that you assume that some developers will use a method. So we're going to use instead our interface to rather than what we would ask someone not to directly change our data. Instead, go through the method. So we have add store. So since we've got add store, and then here our add says what it is.
day.